Welcome to the Hello FirstName podcast. The Hello FirstName podcast revolves around the term personalization and is brought to you by marketing author Rasmus Holing, founder of Omnichannel Institute and Chief Experience Officer at the marketing automation software company Agilic. The podcast is based on the book Hello FirstName. Each episode is based in turn on a chapter from the book, followed by a discussion of the very same chapter with an expert marketing practitioner in the following episode. As always, you can buy the book on Amazon or other bookstores. You can also choose to listen to it all for free on your favorite podcast service. You're also very welcome to download the abstract of the book for free, and all models, of course, are able to download. All downloads are sponsored by Agilic. I'll make sure to put a link to everything in the show notes. But you can always connect on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to reply and help out. Hello, and welcome to the Hello FirstName podcast. Today, we'll be discussing Chapter 11 from the book Hello FirstName, namely personalization in marketing automation, together with Jesper Lindeberg, head of CRM at Miinto. Jesper, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So glad to have you here, and thank you for squeezing out the time in your busy calendar. So you've been working at Miinto.com for some years now, Jesper. Before that, you were even at the agency side and for a short while and at Saxo.com. But in your own words, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your career up until now?
Yes, so my name is Jesper, and as mentioned, I'm head of CRM and have been so for 3 years at Miinto. I have been working here for almost 6 years, and before that, as mentioned, I was at an agency called Kunden Go, where I was working with clients like Vertex and Sylvan, consulting and assisting them with their newsletter activities. Before that, I was at Saxo, and that is where my career began. And it
Bookstore for those
a
who don't know
bookstore, the equivalent of Amazon, if it
the
was
local
just
Amazon
books.
in Denmark.
Yeah, a very big player within e-commerce in Denmark, and it was kind of by coincidence that I stumbled into CRM, but I've not regretted doing so ever since. It's an amazing field, and one of the biggest reasons why I love working within that is that so much is measurable, and that's really inspiring that you can track a lot of the things that you do and see the impact from it.
Super accountable.
Exactly.
Miinto.com, which kind of business is that?
So we're a fashion e-commerce platform. We see ourselves, or not see ourselves, we are a marketplace. And the best way to explain what we do is basically if you as an individual have a favorite clothing store, that could be in Denmark, it could be in another country. What we do at Miinto is make stock and clothes available from physical stores on our market platform, and we do that across numerous markets in Europe. So that's what we make sure of, that clothes just doesn't lie around in the physical stores, but gets available for people in other cities, in other markets, and that's our business model, and we earn our money through commission, and that's challenging business model in some sense, in the sense that profit margins are not always as big as you would see from other big e-commerce fashion players like Boost or Zalando, which also means that our CRM activities are also very much affected or influenced by that fact, that we really need to be smart about how we do communication with our customers. So, but more on that later on, I assume.
Yeah. So I guess, but the short note, I guess, is that if people want to look at a player, marketplace player that is super efficient, you could probably be a pretty good bet. But just let me understand. So if I'm a merchant and I have a clothing store in Italy or whatever, then I could sell my stuff through Miinto.com, put my goods for sale there, and you would sell it to, basically I could have then customers all over Europe through your platform, right?
Yes, exactly.
And vice versa, if I'm a consumer, then I could benefit from the huge assortment, huge inventory that you'd be having, because all these small clothing stores, even the small ones in Italy and Spain and Germany and whatever, would have their clothes for sale online through Miinto.com.
Exactly. So if we take it from the consumer side, the reason why Miinto is so appealing to a lot of customers and that we're doing well is our wide range of assortment. We have a crazy depth and spread in which categories that we have across brands that you don't find on regular e-commerce stores, and that is because of the fact that you mentioned that we have a lot of players across a lot of European markets and also these smaller brands and physical stores. That's what makes Miinto really unique. If we cover the merchant side or the partner boutique side from it, the reason why we're appealing for these boutiques to come online on Miinto is that, as you mentioned, that they can get an easy access, plug and play access to a much larger audience than them having to do either their own e-commerce site or have several boutiques across Europe. So that's why it's a win for them as well.
But also means you have two target groups to cater for and to keep satisfied. I mean, not only the customers, but also the merchants. That must be some extra. I mean, how many merchants do you have roughly?
I believe it's around 2,000 merchants.
Yeah, so quite a target group actually, and of course millions
Yes.
of end customers. So how much on average goes of your time for the merchants, and how much goes for the consumers?
I mean, back in the day, we were really bad at communicating from a CRM angle with our merchants. It was very handheld. What was sent to these partners, as we call them, where it ended up with, because it came down to a question about resources and time consumption, that it was the top partners that got the good insights, where we have really focused on in the previous years to build up a CRM perspective for these partners as well. So both utilizing kind of blast campaigns where we inform about news in the company, if it's about return policies or fees or technical setups that we're implementing, but also if we have upcoming campaigns that they should prepare for and what the timing of that will be. On the marketing automation side, we also really have developed into a place where we are able to give them much better insights on what and how they're doing at Miinto. And that has really scaled up the amount of efficiency, but also the insights that each partner can get. So it's not just kept to the top 10% of our partners, but we really provide some insights with graphs, with tables on which brands, categories, and so on that's performing based on what they have in their assortment. So we don't only function as a consulting part in what they're doing in the sense of their own assortment, but we can also give them insights to, based on their profile as a boutique, which brands they have, which other categories and brands that they could benefit from purchasing. So that's where it becomes really interesting. Yeah.
But extra complex. I think many of the ones who are probably listening to this will have like one target group that they're mainly focused on, and they're selling their own products or maybe sourced products to them. But you really have two sides of the same. So always trying to keep either side happy. And I guess you can run out of products as well as you can run out of people who want to buy. So
exactly.
So that's pretty interesting. So at Miinto.com, and reflecting again on the book, where we're writing about personalization within campaigns, personalization through marketing automation, and on-site personalization as well. Which of these are you using at Miinto?
So I would say that we cover all of them. If we talk about on-site, we of course use a product recommendation tool that ensures that the products that you browse around, based on how much you browse, that they're relevant in your session that you're visiting Miinto in. And the reason why that is so crucial for us is also throwing strings back to what I said about assortment and the wide selection of brands and categories that we have, that it can quickly become super overwhelming if we are not relevant enough based on what you're interested in. So that's how we use the on-site personalization. When it comes to our campaigns, it's very much connected to our yearly cycle of what is going on in the fashion world. So it comes probably as no big surprise that in the summer it's more summer clothing and lighter clothes, and in the winter it's winter boots, winter jackets, and so on.
Yeah.
And that is just very, very crucial that we all of the time reflect what is with what is moving in the market, and also something that can actually be a challenge for us sometimes, because we are across Europe, from Scandinavia to Southern Europe, in Spain, Italy,
So
and so
spring
on.
is not the same time
Exactly.
everywhere. Yeah.
So that's why we really focus on using our business intelligence to know which brands and categories are moving and what time they're moving, because the timing isn't the same in each market.
Of course.
And yeah, and when it
I
comes
know
to
that's
marketing,
also a challenge with, for instance, just in Sweden, for instance, because Sweden is so long, north to south, that spring just doesn't come at the same time. So when they are selling paint for the houses, whatever, they need to do that differently based on geographies. So with
exactly,
all over Europe, I can just only imagine that challenge actually becomes greater.
Yeah, and for instance, in Sweden, we can always see that we are really struggling across the summer, but in the winter period, we really thrive in Sweden because we're really strong in the winter category, and it's quite cold
It must be
in
good
Sweden,
day
or can
right
be.
now. I was cycling through a snowstorm to get to work today.
Exactly.
So great. So there's a claim in the book about what matters the most when you're working with marketing automation. If you recall the bow tie, the insights are either segments or they're moments of truth, roughly speaking, and the content is, roughly speaking, either made up of what we call messages or what we call the content feeds, which in your case would probably be product feeds. So the claim in the book is that as opposed to the moments of truth and the messages, that segments and content feeds are secondary in marketing automation. So the moments of truth and the messages are what matter the most. Do you see that reflected in the way that you're working in practice at Miinto?
Yes, definitely. So from the get-go, when I started at Miinto, we had one welcome email in the Netherlands, and that was what was existing of marketing automation. My strategy and kind of theory around it from the beginning was that I didn't want to, at least at first, focus too much on creating these super complex flows with personalized messaging and personalized segments and so on. I wanted to focus on tapping into the moments of truth, as you mentioned it, that I knew were low-hanging fruits. And some of those could, for instance, be when you just signed up to a newsletter. That's, of course, a welcome flow. But also if you purchase something, that you have some activities that surround that. And that could be in post-purchase, but also if there's a longer period of inactivity, it could be win-back flows. And in general, what really shined through all of these automations that we've built surrounding those moments of truth is that at the get-go, they weren't super complicated. It was more about putting something in the sea and make it fly, and then optimize from there on, instead of having a strategy about building a rocket ship that you don't even know if it's going to fly or not. And that has really been something that has transcended through all of our executions since then.
So getting it live and matching maybe as many moments of truth with some kind of communication, and then later make the communication better. That's what I hear.
Yes, exactly.
I sometimes say that the best marketing automation flow, that the best abandoned basket flow, the best abandoned basket email that you can have is the one that you get live first. And just really having it live will make a lot of difference. And then later fine tuning it, that can give, I don't know, 20% extra, even more, I've heard actually, but still getting it live is really what moves the needle in the first place. So getting the welcome flow live in a generic way after that may be the best second option, and so on and so on. So really matching into as many moments of truth as possible.
Very true.
So how do you see that? We're talking about value creation. Which kind of value are you getting from marketing automation?
So from what I've experienced both at Saxo but also at Kunde & Co, and in the beginning at Miinto, manual campaigns is and has always been what is driving the party when it comes to revenue and performance peaks. But what I can also see from my past experience is that you're very much lacking performance when the campaigns are not running. So what I really want to focus on when starting at Miinto was trying to fill those gaps. And I knew that marketing automation isn't meant to create the same types of peaks between campaigns, but it has been really crucial for us to build some sort of baseline revenue that we can depend on every day between campaigns. And the more automation that we've kind of built on top of each other, so starting off with win back, a Bennett basket, welcome flow, and so on, the more tiles kind of build on top of each other. And that means that we have a really, really strong revenue between peak campaigns that we can actually depend on each day, running in an automated way. And I was thinking prior to this podcast that one of the best examples was our team leaving on Christmas break here in 2023. And in that Christmas break, there was no one touching our automation or anything. It was just running by itself. And it did more than 10 million Danish kroner just by running. And that goes to show what it is that automation can, that even though you're, I don't know, run down by a car, hospitalized, it will always be running. It has a minimum of effort that you need to keep it ongoing. And that has really, really been strong for us, that we are not too dependent on having these manual campaigns, because what you also end up with is that if you are too dependent on these peaks, that you will reach some sort of saturation within your audience when time goes by, in the sense that you keep filling in the calendar months with campaign days, and at some point you'll end up with not enough calendar days and an extremely saturated audience that will never want to buy on any full price because they are used to discount landing in their inbox almost every day.
So coming back to the marketplace operating model there, you need to protect the margin.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So maybe you already answered this in a way, but so the value creation from marketing automation, do you see that as long-term or short-term or both, or which sort of time perspective are you putting down on how you're measuring success?
I would say in the beginning I was a bit surprised about how long it took to actually see an impact from marketing automation, in the sense that the volumes are quite small, and that also draws strings back to what we said earlier, that it's about getting things live, because it can take some time for performance to build up. So it's definitely been a long-term gain that we've seen from this, and I would say from building the automation back in 2018, it took probably 4 to 5 months before we really started seeing some substantial revenue baseline performance coming in every day. But once you're there, it's difficult to see a reality where you could live without the automation running. But it's definitely not something where you will see a result from day one.
Yeah, I guess thinking about it now, and the example that you just gave from Christmas, where you're making 10 millions of kroner while unwrapping presents, basically, and drinking schnapps. That's a pretty hard proposition, and not something that you want to turn off suddenly.
No, exactly.
Interesting. So maybe talking about other kinds of value creation with marketing automation. I mean, there's a lot of, obviously, I mean, you're a fashion retailer, you want to be selling, you want to be pushing the top line, you want to drive revenue. Do you have some examples of some automation flows that are not about selling?
Yeah, so what comes to mind when hearing the question is, of course, we have a Trustpilot flow that, of course, as many other e-commerces, makes sure that we gather insights both on good experience but also bad experiences. But even more important and crucial for our automation setup is our NPS flows, where we have a questionnaire that we send out to customers some days after they've placed their transaction. hearing them both about their experience from NPS score perspective, but also hearing their reasoning behind why they had a good experience or a bad experience. And that knowledge is really, really useful for us in making the company overall benefit from feedback from our customers in an automated way. So what we do with this questionnaire is that we take this information and export it every night. So it lives inside of our business intelligence. So it goes from agility to our business intelligence, where it then populates into a report that is refreshed daily, where we have an understanding about what is running the positive customer experiences. And for those that are experiencing some bad experiences, what is that caused by? And that is extremely effective in prioritizing what we should focus on first.
So if I put in a negative review and I say, well, listen, I had a shirt, it was broken and it didn't arrive on time and my dog died, what happens then? What happens to me as the end customer?
Yeah, so that's kind of a part that we would wish was more automated, in the sense that we wanted you to feel that when you give us a feedback that it's actually something that is addressed. I would say from an overall perspective, what happens is that this information is treated daily and is treated in bi-weekly meetings, where we really cap on to what is driving the bad experiences.
Yeah.
And a really good example of what it can bring with it is our product data that we have seen from a customer perspective hasn't been good enough. So that could be product images, product descriptions, product titles that have actually not lived up to what the customer was then experiencing when they got the package.
Yeah.
That drives up customer complaints, drives up return rates, and so on.
Yeah.
And that has really been good for us to prioritize and build a business case around how important it is that we get this product data even better.
I guess both in terms of keeping the customers happy, and maybe, I don't know if you ever provide sort of a compensation if things are really bad, but also I would guess for the merchant. So if you have a merchant that is consistently uploading products that look bad, or there could
Exactly.
be something in that optimizing that side of the coin.
Exactly, and that's also actually another side to it, as you mentioned, that we take this information, and if there is a trending partner in a negative way, it's not used to shout at the partner or anything, but it's actually used to create some valuable feedback.
Yeah.
We have a partner success, partner growth team that actually, of course, takes care of our merchants partners, and actually uses this information that we get from NPS to provide valuable feedback on how a specific partner is creating products, which product images and product descriptions and so on that they're putting in there. Because if we can make them benefit from that, then in general that will benefit us and the customers in the other end. So it's kind of a wheel of success that we're trying to build based on that feedback that starts in the NPS survey.
All right. So coming back to the value generating flows again, what are the most effective ones, the most effective flows in terms of driving top line revenue in a business like yours?
I would say it's a no-brainer to get first welcome email live. So once a customer signs up, that you're in the top of their inbox, that you introduce yourself, and that you get that permission up and running.
Is that one email, or is it a series of emails, or how elaborate is sort of your welcome program, so to speak?
Yeah, so our welcome flow is not too elaborate, and the reason for that is that we've actually seen that based on we have had a welcome flow that was up to 5 emails long, spanning over 30 days, but we could really see that the value lied in the beginning of when a customer signed up. So we prioritized
30 days is a long time.
Exactly. So we prioritized differently and deactivated most of the welcome emails that lied in that flow, and let other emails push in. And that could be, for instance, as I said, Trustpilot, NPS, but also post-purchase. Because what you also need to consider when you build up a marketing automation setup is understanding what is the pressure in a given customer experience. So how many emails does a customer in general get, not
Yeah.
only from the manual campaigns, but also from just purchasing something and signing up to your
Oh
newsletter.
yes. Yeah.
So that has also been an exercise for us actually to backtrack a bit and understand how big is this pressure. Because even though that automation is super relevant, you also need to respect people's inbox. So just trying to explain that welcome flow prioritization that we've taken on that. And when it comes to the last flow that I would like to mention, it's really win back. Getting that customer buying frequency up by tapping into transactional data, it is such a no-brainer. And what I would say that we've learned from is actually that I think a lot of companies, they work just with one win back. So they try after 3 months or 4 months and so on. What we've actually found out is that there are several moments of truth in a win back flow. So actually having several emails in a win back flow that either starts earlier after a recent inactivity, but with a lower discount offer, and then kind of builds up from there. So you have some sort of staircase automation that over time tries to convert them. Because what you need to understand is that for some 3 months inactivity, which could be a win back waiting timestamp, that fits for them. But for other customers, it's more about 60 days or 120 days and so on. And in the
Depending on
perfect
individual
world,
frequency.
exactly. And in the perfect world, I would like to enrich this waiting step logic with some personalized transactional data knowledge. So having something that fits for you, for your flow, and something that fits for me. But again, this is also reverting back to what is nice to have, cool to have, versus getting something live. So it's something that we will strive to have in the future, but it's not something that we can prioritize right now.
So welcome and win back. I would assume, I mean, that's, I hear a lot that the abandoned basket mail is the one to start with.
Yeah,
am I mistaking, or how is that different with you, or?
No, not at all. If we talk about the funnel and the no-brainers, reverting back to that, the abandoned basket is absolutely crucial. And what we've also seen with that is that a lot of companies, they try to nail what exactly should their copy be in the subject line or in the email body text and so on. For us, it's a lot about that moment of truth, tapping into the fact that you put something in the basket. Again, what we've also seen that because an abandoned basket event is so low funnel and is so personalized in a sense, that this is also something where I think a lot of e-commerces could benefit from having more abandoned basket than they actually think that they're allowed to have.
So more than just one email.
Yes, exactly, with reminders. And also something that we've really seen good results in is not only treating that low funnel behavior in the first 3 days after it happens, but also taking that knowledge about someone has been on the basket in later flows. So that could be having an abandoned basket voucher that could come after 2 or 3 weeks based on the fact that you were on the basket 2 weeks ago, but you haven't purchased anything yet. Because even though the funnel behavior is a while back, it's still an extremely relevant customer to continue talking to. And that is something where I've seen that we've been able to take an initial idea that a lot of people do, and then expand that into having a cloud of performance that we kind of squeeze, even though it's a funnel experience that didn't just happen days ago.
I guess you're carrying a lot of expensive items and a lot of luxury. I guess some of it is also like a consideration part. So I'm maybe almost buying this expensive winter jacket, but I can be almost buying it for quite a while. It's not like a bottle of milk or whatever. I mean, it's like, should I, shouldn't I? And I want to show it to my wife. I want to show it to my friends. And I need to count my money twice or 3 times before I really realizing, and maybe there'll be a sale, and will I maybe get a discount voucher in the email if I let it lying around for a little bit more? So it's not one moment; it's like a period of truth, almost.
Yes, for sure, and that's really what we've seen, that it's a lot about timing for the customer. It could be that they're waiting for the salary, could be that they're waiting for
Yeah,
that extra discount and so on.
yeah,
So that's just a really, really good learning, that don't treat your automation just as a one-off
yeah,
in a moment of truth, but that you can continue to revisit
yeah.
certain types of behavior that you can then trigger something upon.
I guess you could include abandoned products in the payday email,
Mm.
even so you wouldn't necessarily only have it in automated flows, but actually put it into some of the campaigns as well.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've also seen is that even though it would be amazing to have, we don't have the wishlist function
Mm.
at Miinto. And this also means that there's a lot of customers that actually use their basket as a wish list.
Ah,
And I've really come to understand that that's actually a common thing. So it's not necessarily that it's so low funnel as we always think, but
mm.
it's also for someone keeping it for later, in a
Yeah,
sense. So that's why we continue talking into that
yeah.
basket.
Okay, that makes sense. So talking about again, sort of the balance between what would normally be considered automated flows based on life cycle and the seasonal campaigns. I know that you're doing something also there where you're automating some of the communication that other people would think is seasonal campaigns or weekly newsletters. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so throughout my time at Miinto, what I've seen is that uh, you say regular marketing automation can take you to some extent, in the sense that you can get that baseline performance, but that also hits kind of a cap after some time.
Mm. There's a plateau.
There's a plateau, and there's also a boundary of how many moments of truth that you can tap into. Also, reverting back to what you mentioned, or that we talked about with the email pressure for a customer. So you also need to respect how many flows you can build to kind of spam your audience, even though it's automated and more
Yeah,
personalized.
yeah,
So what I was really considering is, how can we actually do some of the same things that our campaigns is doing, but in an automated way.
yeah,
Given my experience with e-commerce in the past 10 years, both with Saxo, Vertex, Silva, and now Miinto, is that what really carries out good campaigns is that they bring in these performance peaks, and they do that, of course, because it's a sale, it's a good offer,
mm.
but they also perform really, really well because they're sent to a large and
Yeah. The
substantial
scale
amount
of
of.
it. Yeah,
The scale of it is crazy big, and that's why regular marketing automation will always struggle kind of to compete with manual campaigns, because manual campaigns get to send to 100% of the subscribers,
yeah,
while automation taps into events like a basket, putting something in the basket, or signing up, or
mm.
placing a transaction, which is actually a very, very low percentage of
Mm.
the entire commission base.
Yeah,
So my idea was taking this concept of the campaigns, building it in a wheel of content that looks manual but is automated, and then having a target group that is kind of an evergreen target group, based on not only the things that drives marketing automation, but also the thing that shows some sort of intent.
okay. So
So
people who
moving it.
are not super top funnel but have shown some degree of intent.
Exactly. Yes. And what we've done is that we've combined these different conditions and boiled down to a target group that continuously keeps itself up to date with a relevant audience.
Mm.
So events that we look into is clicks from emails, opens from emails, of course, past transactions, but especially past browsing behavior on Miinto. So if you've been on Miinto for a certain amount of time in a given session, that really indicates to us that you're in the market to purchase something. So we use these automated campaigns, as we call them, as kind of a retargeting to people that we can see are in market but haven't placed any transaction yet.
Yeah.
But it has really been a balance for us, not only to understand how do these automated campaigns talk together with our manual campaigns. Of course, they can't overlap, so you suddenly have two.
So you plan different
campaigns.
days, or?
Yeah, so what we do is that we tie every send out up with a timestamp. So understanding that this recipient has received an automated campaign, or this recipient has received a manual campaign. Because by doing that, we can create in Agilic what is called the looping. So we take information about this recipient profile, saying that if you have a timestamp for an automated campaign that is this fresh, then you can't receive a manual campaign as of right now.
Yeah, so we'll loop you in for a bit later.
Exactly. So in that sense, we kind of keep people cooking, but we don't overlap in their inboxes, and that's how we ensure that we're not spamming too much, and also that we're not tapping into someone that would have placed a transaction otherwise, and then just sending them a voucher. That's also a balance. That a high intent is also something where you need to be careful that you're not just killing your own profit margins because they're showing some sort of intent and then you give them a voucher. So that's also been a really difficult balance for us, but I think we've landed in a good spot. And
how do you put together the content? So an automated campaign email that goes out, what does it say? How do you do that?
So I really looked at what does a manual campaign do. A manual campaign has a lot of different ways in saying kind of the same offer. That could be in the subject line, in the pre-header, in the top banner, in the CTA, and so on. So what we've done at Miinto is that we've taken this information and said, okay, this is an overall skeleton and layout of a manual campaign. Let's do different versions of this based on what weekday a recipient receives an email. So if you receive on a Wednesday, the email would have a different subject line, a different header, and so on. And if you then, for your next time, enter the target group on Thursday, then your email would look differently. So that's how I mean that we not only have a evergreen target group, but we also have evergreen content that bases itself off what their weekday it is, and also what we can see a customer previously has experienced. So if you've experienced a Wednesday just recently, you wouldn't be seeing the Wednesday version of this on the other side.
Clever. Okay. So you have two Wednesday versions, or I'll just get the Thursday version, or?
Exactly. Then we just bypass to the next weekday.
That's really interesting. And what has that done to your revenue from automated emails?
It has more than doubled our automation. So in 2023, we did quite far past 150 Danish million kroner, and that was
like 20 million euro for.
Yes, 20 million euros, and that was a growth of, I would say, almost 150% versus the year before.
Which is good in itself, I would say.
It's been really, really good, and what has been even better about it is that we're not just mirroring the manual campaigns completely, because what typically drives our manual campaigns is that we run with a 20% voucher to convert our audience. But what we've seen is that we're actually able to convert this high intent audience with a lower voucher, meaning the profitability from our automated campaigns is a lot better. And just in general, this synergy where we fluctuate between a lower voucher and a 20% voucher throughout a calendar month has really, really been crucial for us to grow in this challenging year that we have behind us.
Wow, that's I think that's going to be very interesting for a lot of people out there. So a question that I'm asking most people on the show here, because I mean, generative AI, obviously people have been using AI for some time now, but generative AI is really the new kid in town. What are your plans for doing anything with generative AI, or are you already doing anything on that?
Yeah, so as most people, we've also have had a really strong eye on AI. So what we see initially is that we've been able to gain some really, really good results on site. So on Miinto, reverting back to the talk about product descriptions and
Yeah.
product titles and so on,
Yeah.
this is where we've really been able to use AI to have some generated copy that is much better and much more scalable than if we had to have a team of people doing this for more than 500,000 products.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So taking that logic and actually putting it into our automation setup, what we're trying to understand how we can do is having some generated copy in our emails, in our low funnel emails. So more specifically, our abandoned basket. So what we've had, and I think this is common for a lot of e-commerces, and is actually one of the pitfalls with marketing automation, that you sometimes fall in the trap that is called set and forget, where you set up an automated email and then it actually runs and it brings in some baseline performance,
and you never look at it again.
Also then you never look at it again. And I think one of the main reasons for this is, of course, a resource question, and for us that have automation in more than 10 markets with more than 10 flows and consisting of like way above 500 automated emails, is that it's a challenge sometimes actually deep diving in and tweaking these emails. So what we've tried to do is partner up with a company called Elvis AI, where we're right now doing a pilot where they are, with their tool, providing capability of being able to put in generated copy in our abandoned basket emails. So actually scraping what is in the customer's basket based on the product URL that we have inside of Agilic, and understanding what products that you have actually put into your basket. And that has been really interesting to see how crazy AI is, but also to some extent how powerful and scalable it can be if we actually manage to nail this. And I think the potential of having generative copy, not only in an abandoned basket, but in general in marketing automation, is so powerful, because that actually gets you out of that set and forget trap and actually makes your copy continuously populate itself and be fresh. And in general, what is really, really cool about it is that it can also self-learn. So it can become better and better. So understanding what is it that's driving the opens, the clicks, the conversions, and in that sense, you'll have a snowball effect of performance that will build better and better the more you let it loose. A really interesting project, but it's also, as I mentioned, a scary project, where as marketing automation can be super cool, but it's also something that lies under the hood. And my biggest fear is suddenly going viral on LinkedIn with a Miinto email that just has written something crazy to a customer.
Exactly. It's the equivalent of a self-driving car that hits someone.
Exactly. So it's really about testing.
All right, we're drawing towards an end here, Jesper. This is a crazy, interesting experience. I'm looking forward to see, as I understand it, this is quite new. So I'm really looking forward to see the results from this. So as in the end here, your favorite example of personalization that you've experienced as a customer, what would that be?
So what comes to mind and what really inspired me to work a lot with marketing automation is based on when I've been in the market for looking at a trip, going on a summer vacation or a winter vacation and so on, going into TripAdvisor in sites where you look and research for either hotels or destinations, and actually see afterwards how relevant the communication, also to some extent a bit scary, the relevant communication can be in your inbox. We're really talking into the hotel that you've looked the most at, the destination that you looked the most at, restaurants in that area that are well reviewed and so on. I think that's the dream within marketing automation, for me at least.
All right. Thank you very much, Jesper. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us here in the podcast today. It's been crazy interesting talking to you about these topics, and I'm very much looking forward to hear more about the results also in the future and from the generative AI part. I think a lot of people will be looking at you and wishing that was kind of where they were. So keep up the good work, and I'll see you out there again soon. And for the listeners, I would like to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Hello FirstName podcast. Next time, the next chapter will be a more classic audiobook chapter. But until then, remember that you can download all the illustrations and a written abstract of the book and so on if you go to omnichannelinstitute.com/resources. You can also listen to the past episodes, so I hope you'll be doing that. So again, Jesper, thank you very much for joining, and
Thank you for having me.
Have a nice day. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening in on this episode of Hello FirstName. Remember that all models and even a written abstract of the book are available for download. You'll find the link in the show notes. In our next episode, which is a classical audiobook chapter, we'll be listening to Chapter 12, Content Part 2, Content Feeds. How should marketers adopt personalization of content feeds of products, articles, courses, shows and the likes to profit from personalization?